It's inevitable when you have a show or anime or manga that some characters are not going to get as much screen time as others. The One Punch Man universe is an example of this. Of course, characters like Saitama is going to get the most screen time, but the show actually has a quite impressive cast of other beings that you're interested in, even if we're not talking about Saitama. Like you guys already know, they have aliens in this universe, hero organization with superheroes to help out the world. You got the Monster Association, their own. It's like good versus evil, Monster Association, Hero Association. Humans can become monsters if they do weird things or just their mentality and stuff like that. There's different power levels and rankings in the system. You could be a martial artist that can fight real good and be strong because of that. You can be a superhuman ninja that uses sword and is strong because of that. You can be a person that's strong because they decided to lift a lot of weight. You could be a person that's enhanced because he's a cyborg, a person that has telekinetic being like these two, Tatsumaki and her sister. Or you can be Saitama and pretty much become dang near limitless and break your limiter because of simple training. But the being I want to go over today in this video is a superhuman swordsman known as Atomic Samurai. In this universe, there's different rankings. He's pretty high up there in the food chain. Well, he's within the top 10 when it comes to the Hero Association, when it comes to how strong he is in power level. And he's strong in a way that's pretty straightforward. Like, he has a crazy amount of cutting power and speed. His name is Atomic Samurai. In anime, being a superhuman swordsman isn't nothing new. Heck, even in cartoons like Samurai Jack, being a superhuman swordsman was pretty cool. But let's analyze. How strong is Atomic Samurai? When it comes to his showings, he's not one of those characters you're going to see him lifting up a lot of heavy stuff, but you're going to see him cutting up a lot of stuff because the thing he specializes in, and the reason why he's ranked a certain way, is because of his sword play or his sword cutting power strength, blah, blah, blah. When it comes to the rankings, without beating around the bush, he's pretty high up there on the food chain, which is impressive because we already know how strong this guy is, how strong this guy is, and how strong this guy is. And this guy, Atomic Samurai, is ranked higher. Yep, rank 4, class S, top of the food chain. He's at least in the top 5. Only people being ranked higher than him is Tatsumaki, for obvious reasons she's a beast, and Blast himself, the #1 hero. But just like there's hero rankings, there's monster rankings and how much of a threat each monster is when it comes to threat level. They call them disaster ranks. Usually S rank beings have a reputation of messing up anybody in this rank, demon rank. Usually the only competition they have is like beings like dragon or even above that. This is crucial because demon is a threat for a whole city, or a dragon is a threat to multiple cities. The thing about Atomic Samurai is that he specializes in swordsmanship or sword play, and you got characters in the show that's pretty high rank that use blades. Like other S rank beings like Flashy Flash, for example. Not only is beings like Flashy Flash ranked below him, but it's literally stated in Atomic Samurai's lore. Literally, the One Punch Man Encyclopedia stated he's the strongest swordsman on Earth. And there's a few beings in this universe that can use a sword pretty well and it's pretty strong. It's impressive when you're labeled the strongest swordsman when there's multiple beings that use a blade. That automatically puts you above them when it comes to sword play or swordsmanship. So that's saying a lot about him. Matter of fact, you know he's high on the food chain when he runs his own dojo of swordsmen and stuff of that such. And there's different rankings, S being at the very top, A being pretty high, stuff like that. While it's true that he's up here, his freaking disciples or students are still like A class. So it lets you know his teaching ability and how strong he is if his mere students are this high. Like, I'm talking about his disciples are really high up there in the A class too, almost S class. But whatever they can do in swordsmanship, he can do better, so it lets you know how strong he is because he's a higher rank than his own disciples who are ranked this high. Him and his disciples spend days destroying monsters and stuff. You know he's a swordsman because even if he picks up smaller blades, like this for example, he can slice them up with ease. Let's not talk about using his real sword, just overkill. Slice these fools up with a freaking toothpick, it looks like. Even monsters that are way bigger than him, they use a blade. He can deflect their attacks with ease, just chilling, just blocking his attacks like this. He's not just a superhuman swordsman, but he actually has precision when it comes to how he cuts you. Like, he can cut you in a certain way where you don't get cut up to where you can multiply, like certain characters can multiply, for example. He cuts you just enough to where you can't immediately multiply. So that's when he like uses his strategic measures on like cutting you a little bit and then beating you bluntly. Smart strategies, swordsmanship, all in play. Atomic Samurai is a member of the Council of Swordsmen. In this universe, heck, they even have their own headquarters. When we're talking about his fighting style, he's always holding 2 swords. Heck, his swords are pretty strong themselves. It's natural as a swordsman. He has swords that are custom made. One can say his standard gear one could say improve his power. Like there's this sword known as the Sunblade, a telepathic sword. The Sunblade is alive. This Sunblade he has one could say increase his power already in his swordsmanship. He even said it gauges its wielder to decide whether to lend its power. If you aren't accepted by then, unsheathing it is impossible. It's a sword passed down from the time of myths. Sounds like something out of a fairy tale. Whatever he can do, normally this Sunblade, I would say he can do better with it. But I'll get back to this later on in the video. This sword assimilates with the user. It completely takes over his spirit. so it has its fair share of limits. His stats increased so much, there was this being that thought he was going through monsterification for a second or two, but then he realized it was the sword. The Sun Blade seems to be so unique, for example, that it can even do unique stuff like twisting like a rope and stuff to cut beings, like Golden Sperm, for example, cut off his arm and crap. Very early on, it's just straight up stated he has a lightning fast slash. And this doesn't seem like an exaggeration when it's literally confirmed when it comes to speed with over 100 slashes per second. This is one of his sword slashing techniques he'd do and slice you up in the blink of an eye and you're already shredded. We've seen Atomic Samurai slice through actual buildings with his cutting power. He can cut the ground open. You got occasions like this where he can use his blade to cut up the ceiling so the ceiling can fall on you. He cuts a boulder before Genos can fall into it. Also in this same handbook or encyclopedia entry about him, they stated his power when it comes to how much raw power he can produce, that it's like a nuclear warhead. You're probably thinking, this is just a statement, where's the proof, you're asking, right? I would have thought the same thing if you haven't seen what other S ranks can do in this universe, like Tatsumaki, who's a rank above him, but she does city-shattering stuff too, like using her telekinesis to literally twist the entirety of a city. So when you hear statements about Atomic Samurai being able to slice with the force of a nuclear warhead, it kind of adds up with how the in-universe lore or these top tiers work. Not to mention, this is not even Tatsumaki's greatest feat. Statements like this seems to actually make sense with how the universe works when it comes to the different power levels. They're trying to say with his cutting power, just by pulling out a sword, he can cut you with force equivalent to an actual nuclear bomb, something that can blow up an entire city. What do you guys think? I know we're starting off this video with a bang, but do you think he could slice a city in half? Long range air slash sword cutting technique. That's basically what Atomic Samurai can do too. So he can basically create piercing attacks from far away. When this laser attack came, he did his own air slash to counter a beam. A good example of swiping the air so hard you cut stuff even if you're not near it happens in the One Punch Man universe by other beings. So you know Atomic Samurai can do it. Demon threat levels that are a threat for the whole city. This Rhino being, for example, Rhino Wrestler, threat level demon. This being, for example, uses his sword, tries to cut his horn. This didn't go well. It shows that he's top 5 for a reason, because when this same Rhino being with this same horn tried to pull up on him, Atomic Samurai with his sword, cutting power, he cut his horn with relative ease, might I add. Matter of fact, just cut his whole body up. Slice beings like this into pieces. This is power and speed based on all the different pieces this being is. And when the data book said he can slice you 100 times per second, when you got scans like this, it implies that that statement is true. So one could say a part of the reason why he can cut so hard is because of his raw speed adding on top of his strength too. And for those thinking he's only strong because of his swords doing all the work, no, he can hit you with blunt power to where you can actually see beings get dented from just the blunt trauma of him beating you to death. Do you guys remember this powerful woman monster entity from the Monster Association on the Psychos? Someone that's a psionic being and has a dragon level disaster rank of dragon, which means she's a threat to multiple cities, by the way. You guys remember how she went through her evolution back in the day? She was younger, became a grown woman, getting strong over the years. She fused with another dragon level being known as Orochi, where they combine their strength and power. She even clashed with one of the highest ranks, Tatsumaki herself. And when she was like body hopping and fusing with different entities, yeah, she kept on like body hopping after she fused with Orochi. She jumped to another body, stuff like that. Remember when she did Crazy Psionic Blast, showing her destructive raw power? She can split a continent basically by the way it looks from outer space. She was able to cause all of this mess with her blast power. Atomic Samurai got in a scuffle with her. I mean, of course, she wasn't on this level when Atomic Samurai got a hold of her. She was more in a weakened or smaller state like this Jet state. She was kind of worn down already, and he was able to deflect her blast. Even with the Super Slash, the Atomic Slash, you know, him and the other S ranks were kind of ganging up on her at this point. So I'm not going to say he just did this all on his own, but yeah, they was kind of ganging up on her to show that he's relevant or he can hold his ground still. Even if we want to assume he can't necessarily slice apart a continent, the statements in the guidebook saying that Atomic Samurai could produce attacks like a nuclear warhead kind of adds up after seeing all this. You guys remember Orochi, right? The being that had different modes, same being that was strong enough, that was able to cause a planet-sized earthquake or a planet-wide earthquake and move the core or a piece of the core all the way to the surface. These type of beings, right? Atomic Samurai got blasted by this being and he was able to deflect his lightning type of looking attacks. This doesn't look like Orochi's mightiest attack of all mightiest attacks though, like moving the core level of the earth, causing earthquake type blast. It's still cool that he's able to deflect attacks from this ridiculously strong being. When there's beings like Disaster Rank Dragon, Evil Natural Water, for example, a threat to multiple cities, Atomic Samurai is able to deflect attacks from this being. So in the guidebook, when you see those statements saying his power and speed are that of a nuclear warhead, it seems like that should be taken literal and not just a statement out of the butthole. When it's shown, he's literally a threat for beings that are a threat to multiple cities. So not only do I think his attacks could tremble an island or a whole city, but split it down the middle if he had to. Not to mention, Atomic Samurai is one of the heroes mentioned that could have took on Garo before he got too powered up, of course. Garo was the guy that was getting crazy power-ups that would eventually fight Saitama and destroy planets and stuff. In his early stages, it was stated that Atomic Samurai could have took him on in his earlier stages. Not like when he gets like this and stuff, But earlier stages like this, he could have took him on. See, here's the thing. There's this being that can manipulate and control light, blast power type stuff. And is a disaster rank of dragon, threat to multiple cities, bada bing, bada boom. I brought up this earlier in the video about the Sunblade. In this particular situation, Atomic Samurai uses the Sunblade, unsheaths it, and was able to dispel a blast from this being by cutting it up with his cutting power, Atomic Samurai, to show his cutting power. Homeless Emperor can make blasts that pretty much prove that he can level mountains. So Atomic Samurai using this blade, Sunblade, is able to cut something up that can easily level mountains. This is mad consistent because I definitely believe he can level mountains without this sword. So this is kind of, one could say, a lower end feat. At this point in the video, cutting up mountains should be a joke at this point, honestly. Another dragon level threat, he slices their arm off with his cutting power. Then one can say he has speed of light level reflexes. I've already mentioned this earlier in the video, but we've seen him deflect lasers that are actual mid-flight. His eyes are able to see it and deflect it. But even if you want to say that's too big of an assumption, we know he's at least faster than the speed of sound, because there was this being, right, that stated he can draw his sword faster than sound. But when he tried to blitz Atomic Samurai, you can literally see how close he was to getting slashed, but he still slices him up hundreds of times before the sword could even get near him. So one can say he's way faster than the speed of sound if somebody that's faster than sound gets blitzed and gets cut up this many times before he can react. This occasion I already showed, you can see his speed. He sliced him so many times that he literally didn't know what happened. It was already over. Runs down this area and slices up this many. Yes, to show his fighting speed, he just keeps on doing it. It's not an exaggeration. He can slice hundreds of times per second, just goes down this whole hallway, proceeds on blitzing and cutting them all up because of fighting speed. It's occasions like this that implies he's hypersonic. These beings that he's facing are way above human. He's making them look like they're slow pokes. There's attacks that bear a close resemblance to lightning he can deflect, showing his react speed. One could say he can react to stuff that's the speed of lightning, possibly. But at the end of the day, guys, you gotta respect him. All of this could be just me, though. Do you respect Atomic Samurai? How do you like superhuman swordsmen in fiction? They be going crazy, right? Would be nice to see him have more showings, though. But before I get going, I gotta say thanks for the donations, everybody. Respect Atomic Samurai. I'm glad you are enjoying your time on the channel. Make sure you check out the playlist on the channel to see other How Strong videos. If you like what this channel is offering, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys later.